de edificio.
Una visa para ir a España.
Una cucaracha.
Ganoncho.
Ah, j'ai de test.
沖縄はどこですか？
沖縄どこですか？はい、違いますね。はい、次。
Oui.
I think that it's important for you to know a language other than your own because it can help you connect with a person on a different level.
Was gefällt dir?
Fußball gefällt mir.
I want them to become world citizens, not just a citizen of their own community.
We all experience the same things. We all have the same basic wants and needs.
Что вы думаете, можно увидеть в
You
Санкт-Петербурге?
get to speak with people that you might not have been able to speak with before, learn a little bit more about their culture. It could change your life, learning more about how somebody else lives their life. So I think it's vital.
Ms. Haberlin's classroom really brings together the comparisons standard. It's setting a stage for students to begin to understand some of the things that are very unique to German culture as well as American culture. So it builds understanding and brings together the mindset of the two cultures.
Learning a foreign language, it's really helping students to compare, analyze, to understand in a deeper meaning of their own culture and their own language.
The manuscript served as a status symbol. People had a manuscript, much like you have a Lexus or a Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Porsche. The nicer your manuscript collection was, the more status you had.
The comparisons goal in a Latin classroom is extremely important because it really is through that learning of Latin and learning about the ancient civilizations that students can reflect on their own language and on what's going on in our country today.
In this multi-level Latin class, students compare ancient and modern techniques of manuscript writing and observe cultural differences between classical and modern society.
As I was walking around, I was listening to some of you, observing some of the techniques and the strategies that you were using to divide your work. Sarah and Angie, talk to us about the way you said about your scribe duties.
I was the scribe, and while I was writing, it helped when Sarah would read me what was on the page.
I want you to talk to me for a second about the ease with which you were able to write as compared to what it would have been like had Sarah not read to you.
I may not have understood the words that I was seeing or reading, and my eyes would have gotten tired.
Your eyes would have gotten tired, and you probably would have made some mistakes.
By learning two languages, or three, the learning foreign language, students become more aware of linguistic structure of a target language, and then will be able to use that knowledge to compare with their own native language. We'll think about, how do I say this in my own language?
Qui d'autre peut parler au téléphone dans la salle de séjour? Qui parle au téléphone dans la salle de séjour? Voilà.
In this elementary French class, Deborah Terry compares linguistic structure and meaning as her students work on building sentences in French.
Où est-ce que la sœur lit? Où est-ce que la sœur lit? Louis.
La salle de manger.
La salle à manger. La sœur lit dans la salle à manger. Louis, tu peux venir trouver la salle à manger?
Being able to write clearly is very important for these kids. So by showing them how you can structure a sentence, how you need a subject, how you need a verb, how you need a conclusion to your sentence, and where there's a difference between French and English, for example, not capitalizing certain words, that I remind them that if they are writing this word in English, yes, it would have to be lettre majuscule, but if they're going to write it in French, this is a difference. We're going to write it with a lowercase letter.
They begin to think about language as a system, which they probably have never thought about it by just being in their English language arts class.
Learning a foreign language helps you with English. I didn't know the difference between preterite, subjunctive, conjugation. And it really gave me a whole new understanding of just the technicalities of language.
I've learned that grammar, there isn't much of a past tense that I can see. I mean, in Chinese, you can say yesterday, tomorrow, and stuff like that. But when you're saying he is, she is, or you are, they all have the same grammar form. You just change the proper noun.
你买吃了吗？你买吃了吗？从今后该我为空姐的霸王。I think Chinese helps in formulating ideas in English because when I try and say something in Chinese, I might not know the word for this particular concept that I'm trying to say, and so it forces me to try and think of another way to say it. That's something that's useful in writing English papers, that maybe this just isn't the way I should be saying this, that there's a more direct or a more subtle way.
Everything's really different. The way you address other people, the way you respect people, everything. Like, you wouldn't call, like, I would call my little brother Tom. I wouldn't call him Didi, which is little brother in Chinese, or I wouldn't call him first brother. We all do the regular things that we have to do, like sleep and eat and stuff like that. But we do it in different ways. Like, in Japan, to sleep, they sleep on a futon, but in America, we sleep on beds. More of us sleep on beds.
The community's goal encourages students to take the language outside of the classroom and to use it more in everyday life. This enriches the language learning experience and promotes a sense of lifelong learning.
In the community standard, we encourage teachers to bring language outside their classroom, so the language does not just contain in the four walls of the classroom.
Qu'est-ce que nous avons fait à la dernière classe?
On est allé à la bibliothèque et on est allé sur l'Internet pour voir la communauté en Canada et on a comparé la communauté avec notre communauté ici à McLean.
Maintenant, je vais vous donner un article de l'Internet sur la communauté de Hall.
Guylaine Toulou's Level 3 French class explores similarities and differences between their Virginia community and the Canadian community of Hull.
Qui peut me dire ce que vous feriez si vous alliez à Hull?
Le théâtre de l'île.
D'accord. Qu'est-ce que vous visiteriez si vous alliez à Hull?
Je visiterai tous les centres, toutes les places pour les touristes, car ça a l'air intéressant.
We can also talk about a group of people who share the same interests, for instance, students who are learning the language. So that learning community can exist, let's say, within the same school, so that if you think of community in that sense, you can create many, many communities.
I use the schoolhouse as my classroom. Since I don't have my own classroom, the whole school building is my classroom. I teach from the cafeteria to the hallway, from my office to the actual classrooms that I'm in. The whole building is used to teach German.
Good morning. Welcome to Bracket Today. I'm Nathan Foster.
For Amy Garcia's 5th grade students, the entire school serves as an extension of the language classroom. This daily morning TV show provides an opportunity for German students to perform a skit about the current word of the week, perseverance.
Alex gewinnt. Ich gebe auf. Ich spiele nie wieder Schach.
Richtig, gebe auf. Spiele nicht mehr.
Nein, gebe nicht auf. Das heißt die Ausdauer und das bedeutet gebe nicht auf. Gehe immer weiter.
Gebe auf.
Gebe nicht auf.
They're seeing the German language, thinking in German, getting everyone ready for school.
Tenemos con nosotros dos personas muy especiales, estudiantes de Shumadil, pero son estudiantes de México.
Bringing guests into the classroom is another way to broaden the community experience. Davida Alston has 2 students from Mexico share facts about their native culture with her Level 1 8th grade class.
¿Hay algunas personas en la clase que tienen preguntas para ellos? Sí, justo.
¿Qué te gusta el fútbol de norteamericano?
No, allá en México no se juega fútbol americano. Bueno, unos niños sí lo juegan, pero como el 1% nada más lo juegan. El
1%. Clase, fíjense la diferencia entre México y los Estados Unidos. El fútbol norteamericano, 1% juegan al fútbol norteamericano.
The community's goal really is getting the students aware that the language is used by real people and that they too can use it in a very functional kind of way beyond the classroom.
Ninth graders in Mary Lee DiGennaro's Italian class use the internet and email to share information about themselves and their Connecticut surroundings with a school community in Italy.
Ricordate Stella? Stella, dove studia? Vi ricordate il nome della scuola? Il liceo classico a Cagliari, va bene? Questa classe a Cagliari del liceo di Stella. Io ho mandato le tue descrizioni, le descrizioni con informazione personale con la fotografia. Loro hanno informazione di Rosanna e hanno informazione di Cristoforo, va bene? E poi loro scrivono a noi. Per compito, tu scrivi nel tuo quaderno di composizione una lettera che nel futuro è un email.
The fact that they now have access on computers to communication with students in another place or even information on the internet, I think they develop a pride in understanding that they're able to read that information and talk about it, communicate about it.
The community standard pulls it all together because in their personal interactions with other people from the community, from whether it's their immediate community or extended community, if it's for personal or social reason, the need to use the language, it makes the language a real important tool to have as a student, as a future worker in the workplace, personally or professionally.
Don't just stop it within the four walls of this room. Go out into the community and realize there are resources there where I can use the language and resources to bring into the classroom.
Pablo Muirhead extends his classroom experience with a field trip to a neighborhood community center where students attend a performance of authentic Latin music.
A week ago, we were into our third week of this thematic unit, and when we were planning it, my colleagues and I, we realized that, wow, there's some great events going on in the community, so why don't we see if we can tap into some of those. It would be very sad if we prepared our students linguistically, but never really presented them with the deeper cultural underpinnings that are present in Spanish-speaking culture.
We heard a Spanish band play, and they got us doing claps and actions and stuff, and it was really fun. And then after that, we went to a restaurant, and we learned how to dance the salsa, and we also ate Spanish food, which was really fun, and it was really good.
It was a lot of fun to be able to learn a new cultural type of dance instead of just bobbing to the beat.
The community standard has tremendous potential to really help students, regardless of what language they're learning and regardless of the level at which they are learning and their age level, understand that language isn't just for the classroom now, today. It is for your life outside.
I think it's really important that teachers think about the standards as a mindset rather than as a checklist.
When the teacher sits down to plan, to decide on what the assessment practice is going to be, there is an interrelatedness between the 5 C's. It should be very evident that they are not mutually exclusive, but rather they are interconnected.
The standards really impact teachers because it forces them to think about what are the students learning, what are they doing with the language, rather than, well, what am I teaching? I have to really look carefully at my students and look them in the eye and say, what are you learning? What's the evidence that you're learning something? What do I have to do to help that progress continue?
before we had the standards, before I had that next to my desk where I'm writing my lesson plans. I just kind of wanted the kids to understand and to speak, not knowing why or to whom, what kinds of speaking they were doing, to have it nailed down a little bit better into interpersonal, communicative, just makes it a little more focused. I can look at an activity and say, okay, this works very well interpersonally, but there doesn't seem to be any community tie-in here, so what else can I bring in? So it gives me an opportunity to balance all of the skills and all of the goals together.
Soy Antonio.
Y Andrés.
Adios.